Designated Survivor Episode 15, 100 Days. I think this was a pretty good episode. We got to see some good content in this with some interesting character development. They're leading into what may or may not be really big. I think it'll just be kind of important for possibly the next 2 episodes. I don't think it'll last the whole season. But they kind of introduce, of course, this idea of, especially with it being called 100 Days, they're going into Kirkman kind of starting over, and it's like, you know, we didn't get to do a lot of the normal things where you kind of roll out, this is what I plan on doing for the country, these are the ideas I have for laws and things, putting things on the book and legislations, and so he kind of starts the clock in this episode, and then it leads right into a little bit of chaos with his wife, because she's just answering questions, but naturally with it being a presidency, if you are, you know, especially if you're the first lady, your words make a big impact. And of course they even talk about just a little bit, but the fact that gun control is such a hot button issue where it's so divisive between people, and or divisive, however you're supposed to actually say that. I believe it's divisive, but it's such a big deal with people. And of course with her saying that she feels that there need to be better laws for guns, that instantly falls back on Kirkman, especially from this senator or governor, I believe it was a senator, Bowman, who's like, you know, who's really making the laws here, like the First Lady or Kirkman. And I was like, okay, we'll see where things go. And things seem to play out pretty well. It's like, okay, I know we don't see eye to eye on certain things. Bowman, of course, was his, you know, biggest issue as far as, you know, the whole gun control element. So Kirkman's able to kind of go through some things. He uses, you know, kind of just a nice setting. I believe it was at a college, and, you know, he's able to just talk with people, answer questions, and let them know what he plans on doing about, you know, nationwide laws, especially on gun control. It becomes a big deal because of just how things started to play out. And it seems like things are going fine. And it gets to the end, and he's like, hey, I want us to work together and make something good here. I want us to find a way to kind of increase the laws, or increase, you know, background checks and things like that, so not everyone can get a gun. And this dude is like an oily little snake at the end, and he's like, yeah, so I'm proposing this law. And at first I didn't realize that that was a big deal, because I was just like, okay, so he's like proposing this law, and he is actually trying to make a way for it to, you know, legitimately be solved. And so he's like, you know, I'm proposing this, and, you know, I'm not exactly behind it, but I'm proposing it, you know, in front of Congress, and we're going to kind of see where it goes and what happens with it. And then we find out, or unless, you know, for anyone who may have known that already, I found out that wasn't the best thing, because of course he puts an old bill up for a vote, and this bill is a piece of crap because it's so wide open with the way that it's worded. It's a pretty crappy thing to put on the books. It's something that will instantaneously fail because there are so many, basically, plot holes within, you know, this law. And I thought that was pretty cool. And it's like, well, if we side with him, we know we're going to lose because it's a piece of crap. But if we go against him, then we look like pieces of crap, because it makes it seem like we kind of just used, you know, this meeting where Kirkman kind of looked amazing, where he's answering these people's questions and everybody's cheering for him and everyone's really happy. It's like, yeah, he just used that for pure publicity, and he doesn't actually give a crap about what the people want if he goes out and fights against this, because it'll just instantly be, he said this, but now he's fighting this. People won't go for, you know, people won't go that extra step to bother listening as to why the cabinet needs to fight against, you know, this bill that he proposed. Like, it's for gun control, which you said you want, and then it'll stop right there. And so that's going to lead into a pretty decent conflict, I would have to imagine, in this next episode. So I'm actually looking forward to how they do that, because, you know, it's a fictional series, so it's not like it, you know, matters that much, but it is a, you know, a hot button issue. So I'm curious to see how they kind of tackle that, and if ultimately, you know, in this fictional setting, they come up with like the perfect law, which is to just have, you know, more regulation on gun control and stuff like that. Because they even reference it in this episode where Kirkman says, like, you know, my personal feelings on us needing more gun control is not the same as what everyone likes to complain about, which is the government coming into people's homes and stealing their guns. Like, that's not even remotely close to what people want. It's just more, you know, regulations and more background checks, random things like that. He even says, you know, people being on terrorist watch lists, which I don't know if that's true. I would think that would be a very stupid line to put in there if that wasn't true, so I'll have to do some research myself. But if that's true, that's how crappy our gun laws are, that's a real freaking problem. I know they're crappy in general, because like the story the woman gave about her daughter, stuff like that really does happen, because we don't have the greatest gun laws. That's me personally, but like I said, a lot of people instantly go from, having more background checks or more registration instantly to the government wants to take guns away. And it's like, no one ever really says that, except for maybe people who are going like the super extreme, like guns shouldn't exist. But typically speaking, it's just, a little bit extra steps to get some guns. So we'll see if they decide to actually come up with some sort of law and just how that's going to play out. It seems to be that way based on the promo, that they do decide this is such a crappy bill that, we can't let it go up because it'll just fail. Like, he's acting as if, he really gives a crap about Bowman. It's like, oh, he's making it seem like he's in support of what Kirkman wants for gun control, but he knows that that's, that would never get voted on because it's just full of holes and it's worded so oddly and so poorly that no one would, vote to pass it because it would just be so many loopholes around it. So I feel like they will end up coming up with their own thing and just being forced to explain, like, this is why we have this. Like, we do want gun control. He's the one who doesn't. He's the one trying to trick everybody, kind of make things seem kind of weird. But looking forward to that in the next episode. The other really big story in this, of course, was, once again, they get a lead and then just something bad happens. They still have Langdon, technically, but there's just always something extra. There's always something that's happening. And in this episode, we have Wells, we have Jason, she goes to him, and they actually hunt down this woman who, I don't remember her name, but now it really doesn't matter because she ends up dying at the end of this episode. So they're hunting her down. Jason loses it a little bit, but that was like just that one scene and then he's good afterwards. But they hunt her down. They actually end up finding her, which I thought was very interesting. I was like, why did she stay in that facility? Like, of course, it starts off pretty simple where Wells ends up finding her. She sends this random dude to blow up the apartment. Fortunately, Wells and the other dude escape. I really don't remember his name. But they fortunately both end up surviving. And so they end up going back to that location because it's like, oh, this is actually where she was. Or it was a different location. But, they had the footage and stuff, which I was like, I don't know why she'd leave that there, or, why she would even be at this secondary location knowing that they might have, that sort of research. And I'm sure she had the camera. Like, I don't know why she had the random picture up there, I guess to distract Wells. Like, oh, that's me. Like, she would be that distracted. But she tries to take her down. She went into hiding. Maybe she just didn't know that that's what was going to happen. But at the same time, I kind of feel like she was waiting for them just because of the fact that she left that picture up. Because I feel like she would have seen them coming, like, as soon as they got there, just like with the other place. There would have to be cameras all over. It's like, okay, they're in the building, but they're trying to get through the front. I can shoot out the back and be gone, way before they ever get here. But she decided to stay. And because of that, she lost. She tried to take out Wells, which she could have if Jason wasn't there, but of course he pulls the gun on her and he's able to kind of contain himself. He doesn't end up shooting her, he shoots the wall, and they're about to take her in. I'm like, okay, let's see where this goes. And naturally, they get their big break. They get a person, not just a lead like with Langdon where he's one of the good guys and he doesn't know all the answers. They get someone who knows all the answers once again, and she pulls out that little ankle bracelet of a gun, turns on Jason, and he shoots her. And so, of course, she's gone now. Heck, even Wells pulled off like 2 shots because he shot her twice, and then they cut to Wells, and she was like, hey, and she shot off twice. I was like, she's definitely dead. She's been shot 4 times at a fairly long angle. I think they hit some important parts there. So, she's dead now, and once again, they lose a really big lead. But they do get 3 really great hints as to what this secret organization is planning for the future, and none of them are really great. So we have the Statue of Liberty, we have the Golden Gate Bridge, and the Hoover Dam. Now, the Statue of Liberty one, I was like, that's not that big of a deal. It's important because of it's the Statue of Liberty. Like, that would, it's a big monument for the country, so it would be a big deal if it was destroyed. But I was like, that wouldn't do much. Kind of like with Congress, that's a big effing deal, especially because there were people there. So you do something like that, that's huge. You destroy the Golden Gate Bridge, that's a big deal. You can't just rebuild a bridge in 20 minutes or 20 days. You can't even rebuild a bridge in 20 weeks. Like, I'm pretty sure it takes more than 5 months to build a bridge, especially one of that stature. So, well, it could be, excuse me, it could be different now because of like how advanced technology is, but that sort of thing we don't really have robots for. It's still kind of man-made sort of stuff. So I would assume that would take quite a long time. But that's a really big deal to destroy that bridge. And then the Hoover Dam, I think, is really the biggest threat that they have. Like, destroying the Hoover Dam, obviously it's not on the same level of as what they've already done, because that's like the actual government, and this is a structure. But that's a very important structure. Like, the Hoover Dam supplies power. It uses, water for energy, and it filters things, and it is a dam for a very specific reason, and dams hold in a lot of water. And if a dam breaks, there's some pretty immediate issues with that. And I was like, that might be the biggest issue that they'd have. I'm sure it would be, of course, a huge issue. You destroy the Golden Gate Bridge, there are going to be people on it, most likely. So, of course, that would be an issue in itself, losing a ton of lives, and just, such a huge thing being destroyed, and how that would affect the economy and all sorts of random stuff. Granted, obviously, you could technically take a boat, but it's still a big deal. Obviously, they destroy a bridge that connects land over a giant piece of water. That's a big freaking deal. So, of course, if they destroyed that. But the Hoover Dam, that was the one that really got me. I was like, Statue of Liberty is like number 3. It didn't, that's a tourist attraction technically. Not that big of a deal. Golden Gate Bridge, definitely number 2. And then Hoover Dam, I was like, that would be the number 1 thing to destroy. Because it seems simple, where it's like, okay, there might be some people, around the Hoover Dam, and that would be bad. But that immediate effect of, all that water rushing down to a place where typically, the water goes from like way up here to like way down here because of the dam and how they filter it, that would just cause so much destruction. And then that's the immediate stuff. And then after, like I said, as far as what the dam is really for, and it using power and or utilizing power to like cities and things, that would be a huge disaster. It would be devastating to that economy. You have that immediate area, and then I'm sure that would have a big effect on other things as well. But I'm sure none of that will ultimately come to pass. It would be interesting if one of those did end up happening, especially if it was the Hoover Dam or Golden Gate Bridge, because that would have a much greater impact than, a monument was destroyed. So those two would definitely have a greater impact. But I was like, that's really cool. I thought it was great that we get a lead into what this organization is planning. There may have been some other clues there. I was mostly occupied with actual images, so maybe there were dates on there or something that I may have missed. But I thought that was pretty cool. Like, okay, we're getting a bit of a clue as to what they may or may not do, because they could destroy. I mean, we saw what happened in the first episode, so they might actually do like a fictional attack again. So that could come to pass, but they might end up stopping it, and ultimately we'll just have to wait and see. But I thought that was a great way to kind of end off the episode, where it's like, they end up killing once again, end up losing the big lead that they have, but they find out that there are 3 new plans kind of in development. And maybe they'll get some more information, because it was the whole computer. It's not like she was looking at a file or something random. It was like the whole computer was there. So they could be able to get more info out of that. Aaron had a pretty important role in this episode, where we actually do see what happens with him. And based on the promo, I kind of figured this, but he does end up with Hookstradden at the end of the episode. But we also get introduced to a new character in his cousin. And I don't know if they're going to make her a main character, but she seemed important, because not only did she come to town, but she came to town for a job, which would just so happen to be with Hookstradden. So they would be working together. At this point, she's living with him. Like, she came to apply for the job, so she's currently staying with him. So we'll probably see her quite a bit in these next couple of episodes, and she may end up becoming a main character in the next season, depending on how long Aaron ends up staying with Hookstradden, and just how all that plays out. As he mentions, he's trying to kind of redefine the field because of how things are playing out, with Kirkman being president, of course, and it's just like political parties kind of don't have the same impact as they used to. So I thought that was cool, and it's going to be very interesting to see him working with her and just how all that stuff's going to play out. And he seems to instantly kind of take back to the role that he had with Kirkman, where they kind of have Bowman, and he seems to be going after both of them a little bit. And Aaron's like, he's kind of trying to come at you, cut you off at the knees, sort of thing. So he's kind of taking out that position just like he had with Kirkman, where it's like, I'm basically giving you every single bit of advice that I can. This is what we need to do to stop this guy, which may or may not help, Hookstradden become president, depending on how, they decide to go with the series. Obviously, they would have to do some pretty big time skips, but they wouldn't have to, depending, if it went to like season 5 or something. But I thought it was cool. I was like, I'm excited to see where they go with his character now that he's got this new role. What they decide to do, if they will kind of play up his cousin as a character. She kind of came in just as like, she kind of basically convinced him to take this new position. Like, you came out here to do what you wanted to do, kind of live the dream. Like, we were kind of surprised when you left to work in a mailroom for a senator no one had ever even heard of before. But that's what you did, and you believed it, and look where you've been. So I thought that was actually a pretty cool moment that kind of convinced him to kind of get back into things. He wasn't out of it for too long. So looking forward to what they do with that. But really enjoyed what we got in this episode. Excited to see where they go with this terrorist plot. It seems to get a little complicated in the next episode. It seems like, I wish I could remember the guy's name, but like the FBI, or not even the FBI, but the other guy who was kind of like a bit of an antagonist in the beginning, he was kind of looking into Wells and Jason. But he seems to be stopping Wells for some reason. She's like, the president told me that I can do whatever I need to do in order to stop these, the secret organization of terrorists. And I'm like, why would she need to have this conversation with this guy? So it makes me curious what may or may not happen with his character. But ultimately, I enjoyed this one. I thought they did some good stuff. Looking forward to what they kind of teased in this episode and where we're headed for next week's episode. But of course, definitely want to know what you guys thought about it. So please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts, your least favorite parts. And I definitely want to know how you think the characters are going to end up getting their next lead, considering every time it happens, they actually have a person, they end up dying. And they don't have anyone else. I mean, they'd have to basically bring in a new character for them to capture if it kind of goes down that road again. Because McLeish was in it from the beginning. The woman, she'd shown up, fairly early on. So they don't really have a lot of people. Well, of course, McLeish's wife, she killed him and then herself. And the woman gets killed in this episode by Jason. So there are no other characters. Not that I can think of, at least. But I'm certainly looking forward to where it's headed. But like I said, we'd love to know where you guys think their next really big clue is actually going to come from. Is it simply going to be, some extra files that were on this computer? Will it be a new character that might show up, maybe for an episode or two? Or do you think it'll just be, something totally random that just happens and they get a new clue? We'd love to know your theories on that. And of course, what you thought about this episode in general. So please comment below. Let me know. And thanks for watching.